So this is a Virago fuel pump. I damaged it physically in an accident. I JB welded it back together. The JB weld didn't hold. It got eaten up by the gas and leaked again. It was this end that had the problem with it before. I got a replacement one off eBay for like 60 bucks or something like that, 50, I don't remember. And I had issues with it. It stopped working. I'd get one single click when I turned the bike on, and then it wouldn't do anything after that. And I noticed that it was actually getting really hot as well. So I took the pump apart on the bike, and I found parts that had been corroded. So when I was looking at this one, trying to figure out if I could, if it was my fuel controller, which is this bad boy here, which I also had to replace. This one was working just fine, other than the massive leak in it. So what I ended up doing, I noticed that on this end there's one single screw, which is the same as what was on the pump that was on my bike, the one I got off eBay. So I decided to take both of them apart and compare the internals to see if I could figure out what was wrong with the one on the bike. And when I took this back end off, I already had the other one apart. I looked inside here. The internals were actually identical. There was a couple small differences, like these little grommets here. These rivets were a little bit different, but other than that, like, they were the exact same. They worked the same. They did everything the same. So I actually stole this piece here off of this pump, and this is the one off the one that's on the bike. And as you can see, it is very heavily corroded. So what this is actually a contactor. So how this works is this shaft here is attached to the electric motor, which is in this section of the pump. When you energize the pump, I thought it went down, but this spike here actually comes upwards. And when that does that, there's a little groove right here. That groove locks into the flat section of the D hole and pushes it up. So when that happens, the spring that's in here, right in there, reverses direction and actually opens this contact here. This contact supplies power to the pump itself. So when that spring reverses direction, the contact opens up, the pump loses power, the pump turns off, everything reverses, the spring pops it back up, and the pump cycles on and off. So that's how that works. So I'll see if I can give you a little demonstration with one hand here. So I'll use a pen. So, oh, sorry, seeing my hand. You push it up. Oh. When you push the contact up, it flips, the contactor opens. You can see that spring, my thumb out of the way, that spring is pushing that contact down. And then, put the pen down. Now that it's de-energized, the motor wants to retract. It retracts, pulls this plate back down, and you'll watch the spring flip, and the contactor closes again, re-energizing it. So it does this back and forth. Every time you hear a click, it's actually this clicking back and forth on and off. So with this being corroded, it wasn't cycling properly. I don't know if it got stiff or if the spring's out of place or something. I'm not sure exactly. But the one that was inside this one, as you can see, this is nice and clean. There's very minimal corrosion, even though this bike is an 85. So this one, the contactor was in perfect condition, and this one, which had only been on the bike for maybe a year, was corroded to hell. So I just swapped the contactors around, and my new one works perfectly with absolutely zero issues so far. To switch it, it was very easy. That sits on there like that. Right here on this tab, there is a soldered connection, which on the factory one was this one wire here. On my aftermarket one, it had one wire that came in from the outside right here, went to a capacitor, and then to there, and then there was another wire out of there into the electric pump. So obviously this one, the power goes to the pump first, and then cycles back to the contactor, whereas the new one that I got was contactor and then the pump. Doesn't really matter, just make sure that if you're going to replace this contactor, if you have spare parts, which I don't know if anybody does, most likely not, I probably got lucky, whatever comes off of here on one of them, those all go onto the new contactor. But that was my problem right there for sure. It has been confirmed, and it works like new now. So 20 minutes of work, maybe half hour to take it all apart and resolder it and put it all back together, and saves me having to buy I think the one I bought was $50, and this one here, which is the Virago style with the two off the side like that, the cheapest one I could find was used for like $115 American, plus shipping to Canada, which was another like $50. So hopefully this can save somebody some money if they have this same problem with corrosion.